let's talk about one of the most hyped, controversial, and honestly confusing diets out there, the keto diet. Some people swear it's the holy grail for fat loss. Others think it's a quick road to clogged arteries and bad breath. So today, I'm going to break it all down. What keto actually is, how it works, the good, the bad, and whether it's right for you. The ketogenic diet, or keto for short, is a very low-carb, high-fat diet. Typically, you're looking at about 70 to 80% of your calories coming from fat, 10 to 20% from protein, and only about 5 to 10% coming from carbs. Now, to put that in perspective, that usually means eating fewer than 50 grams of carbs per day. Now, what that looks like for obvious carbohydrates would be one banana and a slice of bread, because no one looks at a banana and a slice of bread and think it's protein or fat. Those are carbs. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can have a banana or a slice of bread on keto. More on that later. Now, when carbs are low, your body shifts into a state called ketosis. Instead of burning glucose for fuel, you start producing ketones from fat, and those ketones become your main energy source. When you eat carbs, your body breaks them down into glucose. This glucose fuels your muscles and the brain. However, when you deplete carbs, so your body hasn't got any glucose in it, your liver starts converting fat into ketone bodies. These ketones cross into your brain and muscles and act as an alternative fuel source. So essentially, keto flips your metabolism. Instead of you being a carb burner, you become a fat burner. Now, some potential benefits of a keto diet can be fat loss. Now, this is one of the biggest reasons why people jump onto keto: weight loss. And yes, it works. Studies show low-carb ketogenic diets can lead to a significant amount of fat loss, especially in a short term. However, something to note is a lot of the early weight loss that you experience is actually water loss, because when you cut carbs, your glycogen stores drop and glycogen holds onto water. However, over time, fat loss can be similar or even slightly greater compared to other diets, mainly because keto helps some people naturally eat fewer calories without even thinking about it. In short, there's nothing magical about keto. It just helps certain individuals to get into a calorie deficit. Appetite control is another potential benefit. Many people report feeling less hungry on keto. Some studies suggest ketones themselves might have an appetite suppressing effect. Now, I've noticed this myself when doing keto, but also with a lot of my clients, where in the beginning they're having 3-4 meals, and then eventually, as time goes on, naturally they're finding themselves go down to 2 and sometimes even 1 meal a day. Not because I'm telling them to do it, but because they're genuinely not hungry. Another potential benefit is what it does to your blood sugar and your insulin. Now, keto can improve blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity, which is why it's been studied for type 2 diabetes. By cutting the carbs, you avoid big blood sugar spikes and crashes. Now for a big one, neurological benefits. Now, here's a fun fact. Keto wasn't actually invented as a weight loss diet. It was originally developed in the 1920s to treat epilepsy. And in actual fact, it's still used today in drug-resistant epilepsy cases. There's also research looking at potential benefits for conditions such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. However, that's still in the early days. So we've spoken about the benefits, but now let's look into some of the downsides of doing a diet like keto. So the first negative side effect you might get from keto is the keto flu. In the first week or two, many people feel like they've been hit by a bus. Fatigue, brain fog, headaches, irritability, kind of like flu-like symptoms. This is the keto flu. All it is basically your body adjusting to using fat and ketones instead of carbohydrates. If you're someone who experiences the keto flu, my advice is stay hydrated, so loads and loads of water, and keep the electrolytes up and give it time. Downside to the keto diet is how restrictive it is. Let's be real. Keto is hard to stick to. No bread, no pasta, no rice, no goodies, no sweet stuff. For most people, that's not sustainable long term. Now, this is a big one for me. If you're into high intensity training or heavy lifting, like I am, keto can be tricky. Glycogen is your body's preferred fuel source, especially for explosive effort. Some research shows strength and anaerobic performance can take a hit on strict keto. I personally found that in terms of thinking and studying and, anything to do with performance of the brain, I was really good. I was sharp. The minute it came to performing in the gym, it was shit, absolutely shit. Now, the other thing that people don't talk about is we don't really have much long-term data on what strict keto diets can do for the general population. Now, there are some myths that just need to go away, okay? Keto does not mean unlimited bacon and cheese. I remember a few years ago when keto was very big in the health and fitness space, there were people that were literally drinking bacon grease. And it's like, come on, you're going from one extreme to another here. Yes, it's about high fats, right? But we're looking at quality fats. So things such as avocados, olive oil, nuts, fatty fish, etc. Another thought is you're kind of in ketosis as long as your carbs are low or you cut carbs entirely. That's not entirely true, because if you eat more protein than your body requires, it can kick you out of ketosis because the excess protein now will just be converted into glucose. So essentially what you're doing is you are having expensive carbs. And then this is the one that pisses me off the most, is keto is the best diet for everyone. There are no diets that are universal. Some people do very well on a ketogenic diet. Others crash and burn. The best diet is a diet that you can stick to. Now, why might you want to do a keto diet? If you're someone who struggles with hunger on a diet, keto might be a good option for you to explore, especially if you're someone who naturally leans towards protein rather than carbohydrates. If you're someone who has type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance, it might be something for you to read up to, educate yourself about, do a bit more research, and possibly try it along with kind of the blessing of a medical professional. Now, for me, keto has been useful at certain points because, as I've mentioned in other videos, I suffer from food addictions and I just have a kind of a bad relationship with food at certain points, at certain times in my life. And there was a time where I found myself just not being able to get enough kind of sweet stuff and just ramming all this sugary shit in my mouth, right? And for me, I needed to kind of make a rule and say, we're not fucking doing that. We're going to take a break from sugar for like 2 months, right? And that's exactly what I did. So I adopted a ketogenic diet to help me do that. Now, in my opinion, keto is not kind of the best diet for someone who loves carbs. You're just always going to be going against what you're naturally wanting. Athletes who rely on high intensity performance, keto is probably not the best option. And you know, like for most people, they use keto as a tool, okay, unless they're using it because they have epilepsy or something like that, which I have a few friends and clients who I've recommended a ketogenic diet and it's actually helped them massively with their epileptic episodes. But for a lot of people, we use it as a tool, okay, we use it as a tool to get them in a calorie deficit, not feel hungry, enjoy the foods that naturally they like, so they lean more towards kind of protein, fattier cuts of meat, so your lamb and bacon, a bit of bacon, some steak and whatever. But my advice is, if you do decide to try keto, here's some tips. Focus on whole, nutrient dense fats. So I mentioned the lamb, the beef, especially beef, is incredibly nutrient dense. Salmon, you got your avocado, you got your nuts, that kind of stuff. Olive oil is really good. Get plenty of non-starchy vegetables. That is going to be incredibly important for your fiber and to help everything kind of pass through and to keep your toilet habits a bit more natural. Some people opt to use something like psyllium husk to also aid in, digestion. Now, when you're doing something such as keto, you need to be very vigilant of your electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, magnesium. You should be taking an electrolyte supplement anyway, but when you do something like keto, you just need to bump that up a bit more. Pay attention to the color of your urine. If your urine is clear, you're flushing out a lot. If your urine is dark yellow, browny, you need to increase the hydration, okay? And that's the other thing, is you need to drink a shit ton of liquids. Now, during the adaptation phase, it can take a few weeks for you to, get over that keto flu and start feeling good again. So you have to just make your mind up and stick with it. And lastly, remember, just because you're on a ketogenic diet doesn't mean you can eat whatever the fuck you want, okay? You still have to be in a calorie deficit, right? So for some people, doing a ketogenic diet will naturally put them in a calorie deficit because the hunger's being curbed, or we're cutting out a lot of those good foods, so like your pasta, your rice, sweet stuff, bakery items, all that kind of stuff. But end of the day, it's not a free-for-all, so it doesn't mean that you can just eat tons and tons of bacon, steak, butter, all of this shit, because you will gain weight. The keto diet can be a powerful tool, but that's exactly what we'd use it for, as a tool to help you to diet a little bit easier. If you're curious about keto, try it, but do it properly. And if you need help tailoring it to your goals or figuring out if it's even right for you, drop me a message. Let's be sure you're not just jumping on the bandwagon or the hype, but you're actually going to get some results that gets you where you want to be.